Ah. Oh, okay. Oh, I think all of that I did. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start over because I didn't have my mic on. I couldn't hear me, so I know y'all couldn't hear me. So stay right there. I'm gonna rewind. I'll be right back. I promise. Nah, bop it. I'm doing it just like this. I'll just wipe out the first 10 minutes or whatever. I just don't like, man. Why y'all ain't tell me y'all couldn't hear me? Y'all couldn't hear me? Y'all A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U, sub. You know what? I hate. Folks, stay right there. I'm coming right back. I gotta back up. Because they didn't start off right. Ba-da-da. Ga-do-ga-da-da. Nah, I ain't. I'm stopping. Man, I'm going with it. My problem is, I can be a perfectionist. I always want to do the best job I could do. So, you know, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do this here. This is how we're going to do this here. Okay, right on. And take two. Hey! Because y'all couldn't hear me the first time. Now you can hear me. What's up, people? I'm over here tripping. I am. I'm tripping. You don't never need help from nobody else. All you got to do now. Drop the booty like it's hot. See, this is how I get hyped. I know y'all said, damn, what does he do before he come on air? Nothing. I'm just like, once the music starts, I'm in the zone. So, you know, I forget about my aches and my pain. I forget about this week. I have the same kind of weather I had last week. We got an impending thunderstorm, but I'm going to go ahead and do what I could do for as long as I could do it. What I look like I'm doing on cue. Just like that. What's up, people? How y'all doing out there? I hope everybody had a great week. Want to welcome everybody to tonight's show, tonight's podcast. As for me, what can I say? I can't complain. Things are going gravy, I guess. I just got to do this part. So let the horns do the thing they do. Spaghetti-doo-ga-da-da. Spaghetti-doo-ga-da. Spaghetti-doo-ga-da-da. Skadoo-ga-dee-ga-dee-da. Oh, Bankhead bounce it. Oh, prep it out. Get that off my shoulder. Anyway, let me get back to this. Y'all know that's my music. That's how I kind of get hyped. So I'm gonna kind of cut that. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna get serious. I told y'all to drop the booty like it's how somebody, I ain't gonna say her name Linda, but she said you gonna help me get it back up. Hey, that's what you got that man for. He a Marine. He's used to intensive training. Let him do what he do, boo. I'm a sick puppy, folks. So, oh man, that reminds me of, every time I hear that reminds me of that Roger. What's up, Josie? I'm gonna beat you up. I still ain't forgot you. You dissed me last week. I ain't forgot. You remember how we used to do in school? 3 o'clock by that front gate. You and me. Watch. I'm gonna beat you up by Blake's now. I'm tripping, people, but you know, again, welcome to tonight's podcast. Let me get serious. It just kind of conveys my mood. What we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do, is just deal with the situation that's at hand. In most states, the governors and mayors have moved into phase 2. Some people talking about moving into phase 3. I know Disney is talking about opening, and if you've ever been to Disney, you know they have an enormously long line. So I don't know how that's going to work with social distancing, where they're going to be. They'll be stretched from Disney and Celebration to Cocoa Beach. But anyway, it is what it is. Small businesses, restaurants, salons, and places like that have opened to mixed reviews. And I say that because we see some instances where people in the businesses themselves have been infected and are inadvertently infecting other people. I don't believe they do it on purpose. A lot of these are small businesses or employees who have no choice but to work. So I know what that's like. Again, I give a shout out to all my people in healthcare and the old people that were never essential, but now they're important to us because they've been keeping the stores open and making sure that we have the things. Make sure I have my steaks and my shrimp and my crabs and all that stuff that I like to eat. But anyway, it is what it is. As a result of the small business opening, a lot of the employees are forced to go back to work. They have no choice. And as a result of that, I personally say, when it comes to human life versus the economy, I choose human life. I could really give a shit about the economy. But I admit, I'm ready to turn the page. I am so ready. Not for the economy. I'm ready to take charge of my own future on my own terms. And that's what we have to do, because if we trust them to do it for us, it won't be done to our liking or the right way, because they don't have our best interests at heart. Now we're seeing some people are moving forward. Other people are doing so with trepidation. And still other people are just holding steadfast, stuck, just waiting and trying to see what happens as the rest of the world pushes full steam ahead. Admittedly, I'm in the middle. I've talked about what I call my hibernation, where I'll stay to my domicile, but then I get out and I roam a little bit when I feel comfortable or I feel a need, and I come back to my own place to recharge. I do that, because I know I need that fresh air. I know my body needs that sunlight, that reinvigorates our immune system, that vitamin D that we've talked about. And I've been beating that into you guys' consciousness because it's imperative that you do it. It's imperative that you do it for yourself, for your immune system. I think that's the one thing that's kept some of us from getting sick. I'm convinced, I am utterly convinced that in the last 5 months, I've come in contact with at least 3 people that have been infected to some degree with the COVID-19 virus. I'm just convinced. And just accept this for a moment. If I come into contact with 30 people a week, and of those 30 people, 1 out of those people could be infected to some point. And I think the only reason I haven't really gotten sick, and the reason that you haven't really gotten sick, is because your immune systems are such that you can fight this off. You know, and I'm not boasting or anything, but 41 years in healthcare has taught me a thing or two. So what I try to do is pass that on to you guys, so to help you make some informed decisions. Last week, we talked about accepting the things that we cannot change and taking control of the things that we can. The week before last, we talked about how COVID-19 and fear can paralyze us and do everything from creating anxiety and depression to literally killing us, giving us heart attacks and strokes. As for me, this marks the 4th week of my self-imposed hibernation, where I venture out of my domicile, I do what I feel, and then I come back to my fortress of solitude. Though it may appear that it's easy for me to be mingling and parading around with and without a mask, everything I do after I do extensive research, and I rely on my faith. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what I call 2 Americas that are emerging from the last 3 months of unnecessary debts and slowly getting by with their lives. In short, the coronavirus. So tonight's podcast is aptly titled 2 Americas AC after Corona. As I move forward, and what I urge you to do, everybody has to make the determination and the decisions for themselves. I call this my new norm, cautious but without fear. And I think that's the best way to do it. First of all, I'll concede that this pandemic is far from over because people are still dying at high rates. And because of that, but that's beyond my control. That's beyond your control. Only God controls that. Man can help the situation by doing some things, but sometimes in spite of what man does, grace saves us. But I'm not going to preach tonight. I realize that I have no control over what the governors and the mayors and the business owners do. I've been giving you, for the last 3 weeks, I've been giving you advice based on my research and the conclusions that I make after studying the information that we're given or we're privy to. I can only offer you advice. I cannot tell you to venture out and expand your comfort zone to help you redefine your own new norm, but I'm telling you what I do. That's your decision for you to do, just like I've decided to do certain things. In the last 2 weeks, I've tried to practice what I preach. I've pushed the envelope via my research. I do my research. I look at all the information. Then I take inventory of myself. How am I feeling? Have I been getting enough sleep? Have I been eating right? What have I been eating? Have I been hydrating my body? How do I feel when I go out in the sun? How do I feel when I just exert myself? All of these things are questions that you need to ask yourself as well. One of the reasons I decided that I would expand my horizons is because the realization has always been in the back of my mind. If I were not retired, I would have been on the front line fighting this thing as I did with SARS, as I did with Ebola, as I did with MRSA, and so forth and so on. So we've always had organisms to deal with as healthcare professionals. Now that I'm retired, I can pick and choose when I do certain things. But I really believe, as a result of the life that I've been living and the fact that I've been exposed to certain things, that my resistance may be a little higher. And I think that some of this is the same thing that's happening with you. We've been sharing things, we've been sharing germs for an infinite amount of time. As a result of that, if you're doing certain things, like if you're eating right and getting enough rest and doing this, that, and the other, you have an immune system that can kind of help your body to battle these organisms. So for all of these reasons, I refuse to be locked up. I refuse to continue to just play hermit. Now, I enjoy my own company, and honestly, sometimes too much. Women that's dated me and people that know me know that it's no big deal for me to sit in the house for 2 or 3 days and venture out when people are asleep or early in the morning, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning or late in the evening or whatever. So I don't have a problem with that. The real problem that I have is being dictated to about how I can live. And I think that's the main thing that stresses all of us out. On top of that, I ask myself, how do I reform those interpersonal relationships that I value? How do I reconnect with those people who've been there for me and who've been there for us throughout this pandemic and this quarantine? As a single man, I ask myself, how do I start dating again? And when do I safely go out to my favorite restaurants to sit down for a meal? I'm not there yet. I'll be honest. I'm not there. As much as I show you guys different meals simply because I go out and I try to find different ways of doing some of the same things because I'm tired of tasting my own food. I'm tired of cooking for myself, so a big booty woman that's going to come along and cook a brother meal. Hey girl, where you at? How you doing? How your mama now? Oh, now let me stop tripping. But seriously, we're all going through the same thing, especially if you're single. Now the flip side of the coin is there's a rise in married couples and people living together because they've spent just too much time together. So they're probably at a point where they need a break from each other as well. One thing is, this quarantine has taught me a lot about myself, and if you pay attention, it's taught you a lot about yourself as well. Somehow, I've realized that I'm a whole lot tougher. What I was doing as a Marine and what I was doing as a healthcare professional, I was doing because it was my job. I took an oath and I followed through with that oath. I did what I said I was going to do. So I put my fears and I put my, sometimes my safety on the back shelf so that I could do what I needed to do. That taught me a lot of my intestinal fortitude. It showed me how strong I was. So now these are some of the things that I'm dependent on. Somehow, some way, we have to find what I call a happy medium between starting a new norm, being cautious, and paranoia. How do we do that? Here's how I do it. I go back to what I believe. What do I believe? What has the last 3, 4, 5 months shown me? I believe that COVID-19 is still very real. Even though the numbers are starting to stabilize, we do not have definitive answers. I've also accepted the fact that as long as this administration is in office, we never will. So I have to accept that again, for my own sanity. I have to accept that. Certain things I do not know. So I'm going to add that to my book, The Mysteries of Life. Things I just don't know. We have so many conflicting stories and so much information that we're fed up. And I refuse to be paralyzed by fear. I refuse to be paralyzed by fear. So I'm going to do these things. I will not lock myself away indefinitely. And I will not be so afraid to die that I forget to live. And that sounds crazy. But every day we do something. Whether as a man I'm walking to the store, driving to the store, or sitting in my own house eating ice cream. My door could be kicked in. And that could be it for me. So I refuse to be so caught up in fear and afraid of dying that I forget to live. I always say the difference between a fool, a smart man, and a genius is A fool never learns from his mistakes. A smart man learns from his mistake. He touches a hot stove one time and he draws a correlation between the stove being hot and getting burned. A true genius is not about having an IQ of 170 or whatever. It's about being able to observe the behaviors of others and avoid making the mistakes that they've made. So that's what I practice, and that's what I'm urging you to do as well. Observe what people are doing, people you like and people you don't like, people that appear to be living a life where they're not having a lot of problems. How do people you know, how did they get off some of these medications, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to go down that tangent, go off on that tangent. But it's some of the things that I do, and I'm just trying to help you understand my thought process. I work some of this out. Some of us do not have the luxury of waiting this crisis out. Some people have been forced to go back to work because their employers say either you come back to work or that's it. You won't have a job and you're not going to get. And some of them got no unemployment to speak of, so they have no choice. If nothing else, with the lack of leadership, this has shown us that we have to up our game so that we can make choices for ourselves. Last week I told you to do your own research, but be objective. I've watched how they've resumed their pre-corona lives, how some people have resumed their pre-corona lives, and I've observed how it's affected their health. How have people gotten on? How are those so-called essential people in the grocery stores that's been dealing with this, day in, day out, working 12-hour days, being stressed, etc. So I watch all of this. When I people watch, I pay attention to everything. So how do I employ my genius so that I can avoid making some of the mistakes? But better still, how do I learn from some of the things that these people did? So in essence, I've been doing my own research by looking at different age groups, different health statuses. Now, I might not know when I walk into the produce department at Walmart that so-and-so has this, that, or the other going on. But I can pay attention to the fact that she's obese. I can listen to how she's breathing. I can see how she works and see if she's easily exasperated or tired. So I pay attention to all these little things, and then you engage people in conversation. And you don't have to ask pointed questions like, are you taking any medicine? Do you have diabetes? When you engage people in conversation, they have a tendency to tell you about themselves because most people's favorite subject is themselves. So they share information and you get things, you learn things, you learn something about the person, and you're not exploiting the person, you're just being friendly, honestly. So that's what I do. Through all of that, I ask myself, and here's what I want you to do. What's your best case scenario and what's your worst case scenario? And how do you find a happy median in between? When we start to talk about venturing out, the first thing people talk about is mask. A while back, I posted this thing and I talked about the different type of mask and what masks are effective to keep us from inhaling, an organism like COVID-19, and what masks are ineffective. The masks, these fashion masks that you see everybody wearing, they're good for keeping their germs to themselves. So what you got, you don't spread to others. But it makes it harder it don't stop them from that organism from getting on that mask. And once that mask gets a little saturated or what have you, then you can spread it from the mask to your face, your eyes, etc., etc. On top of that, as a healthcare professional, whenever you watch ER or Chicago Hope or Chicago Med or whatever it's called, you see them talk about O2 sat rates, oxygen levels. What's the oxygen level in the blood? How much pure oxygen are we inhaling so that we can exhale the carbon dioxide? It makes it harder for us to get the pure oxygen because some of this stuff is trapped in the fibers of the mask. This masks that we wear in the hospital, they're designed for their specific purpose. But the things that you see, if you're walking around with a cowboy mask, heaven help you. But if you're walking around with a Saints mask and, my girl prettier than yours, I have the best grandchildren, whatever your little fashion mask says, that's good. It gives you a level it gives me a level of comfort because it tells me that you're keeping your germs to yourself. But it really doesn't help you for a lot of things. But it makes you feel comfortable. It gives you the confidence that you need to go out, keep on doing what you're doing. That's what I know. As I move forward, there are times when I go places without masks. I went to the launch yesterday, and it was about, honestly, there was not much social distancing because here's the first time in 9, 10, 11 years that we've sent American astronauts up on an American ship into outer space. So it's a big deal. And now that I live in the area, I want to watch it. I want to see it too. There are people that are traveling from around the United States to see this. And I understand that. So this is a guarded risk. How do I deal with that? Do I mask? Do I not mask? Where do I stand? How do I separate myself? How do I create social distancing between me and others once we get into the heat of the moment and everybody gets carried away? Excuse me. No, it's not COVID-19. It's allergies. My advice is this. Now that we've made it through this first wave of COVID-19 and the coronavirus, we have to make educated choices moving forward. You're much smarter and tougher than you give yourself credit for. Those that believe in something, whether it's Jehovah, Allah, God, whatever, renew that strength. Renew your spirituality and step out on faith. Move forward with confidence. Do not be afraid to expand your horizons, but do so judiciously. Do so after you do your own due diligence and your own research. Don't allow this fear to retard your progress. As we move ahead, again, some people are, some people aren't. And that's what I am defining as the two Americas, AC, after Corona. Listen to the updates, but don't get psyched out by all the sensationalism. We had a wake-up call of the old norm, and everybody knows about it. It's been on everybody's consciousness, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. May George Floyd, may he rest in peace. And why do we need to talk about that? I think we need to talk about it because it's still happening, and that's the obvious. I call it the SOS, the same old shit. But it's gotten to a point where even those people that were once not our allies, they're starting to say, okay, that's enough is enough. You understand? This man was doing nothing. You understand? He's laying there. And then I saw another video of a black cop with a young kid around his throat, his hands around the young kid's throat in Mississippi. Black on black, another form of, I call it black on blue crime. because black cops, a lot of them don't see themselves as being black anymore. Some of them feel alienated by the their own people, so they see themselves more as blue. But that's a whole nother thing. Everybody that I know that's a cop, I know what you're dealing with. You understand? I couldn't wear the uniform because I'm too opinionated, honestly. This is an election year, so this is our chance to really get something done. Because even those folks that would not be empathetic to us, they have to do something. And here's why we hold our feet to the fire. So this is why we talk about it. I was talking to a young lady this morning, and when I talked to her, she was in tears talking about everybody on CNN was crying as a result of what happened. And I'm like, I'm all cried out. I have no more tears. What it does is it incensed me to the point where I'm so angry, I want to do some things politically. So that's what I'm going to do moving forward. I don't see myself running for office right now, but I do see myself in making some things happen. And as I start to develop that, I'll talk to you about it. But right now, I wouldn't let the cat out the bag because it's too premature. But here's what we could do. We need to demand that the state attorney general seeks first-degree murder charges on this cop. Because he had enough time. The way the first-degree murder goes, if you're in the heat of the moment and you step away, then you have time to think about it. If you pursue after that, then that's what they call premeditation, because you had a chance to cool off and rethink yourself. When you go back, you premeditated. You decided what you were going to do before you did it. That's why the state attorney, first of all, need to seek first-degree murder charges on him. And I think all of those other three cops that stood by and did nothing and said nothing, they should be charged with accessory. If that does not happen, then the Fed should step in. We can't depend on our U.S. Attorney General. That's Bill Barr, and we know where he is. We know who he's aligned with and how he feels about the situation. But we need to make sure that the FBI and the DOJ steps in and does something. And I think something has to happen. We have to, send a message that murder is murder. Simply because you have a badge and a gun doesn't lessen it. And this was so blatant. A lot of cops have sent me stuff showing me this, that, and the other, and showing solidarity, maybe secretly because they're afraid of what would happen. But I think they have to stop being afraid. And those people that are righteous, that are standing up and doing their job the right way, they have to start weeding out those other people. So that's a whole nother thing that we won't even get into. But I think we have to establish a precedent that demands that black men be afforded the same respect when they're being detained, when they're being questioned, when they're being arrested, so forth and so on, when they're doing absolutely nothing, and the result is they somehow end up dead. I think there's no excuse for armed white men being able to roam around with assault rifles and more armament than a Marine in battle. If you've got two sidearms, a long rifle, a shotgun, and this idiot that had a missile, that's more than I carried as a Marine. That's crazy. And nobody is challenging them to check out if their paperwork to make sure that the guns are legal, so forth and so on. So I don't want to go off on a tangent. I don't want to get on that soapbox. But I think we're talking about it because this is George Floyd number 397. You understand? In a list of long George Floyds. So now is the time in an election year that we demand that something be done. So let me take a breath and just kind of chill from that. I just had to say that because I felt remiss if I didn't. It touches my humanity because it could have been me, it could have been one of my sons, it could have been one of my grandsons, it could have been somebody that I knew. I've got family in Minnesota. It could have easily been one of those guys, you know. So, yeah, it touches something deep in me. But I just want to conclude what we talked about in the two Americas. I know that COVID-19 is very real, but many of us are ready to take control. As we lead the charge, others will follow. People will start to take more and more control of their lives. I think you guys are stronger both physically, both your immune systems, both your spirituality. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. So step out on your faith, step out with confidence, step out and start expanding things, your horizons, and let's start forming those relationships, that community again. If you want to stay sheltered down and wait, do so. I'm not telling anybody what to do. If you're ready to venture out, do your own research and do so. Do not wait for an employee to tell you or someone to tell you that you have to. COVID-19 has shown us all how resilient we really are. As that, I want to leave that as my final word. I want to bid everybody a farewell tonight. A good evening. Farewell sounds so fun. I didn't really mean that. I say, as we move forward, let's respect each other. Let's respect each other's choices. If someone invades your comfort zone, and when it comes to social distancing, remind them to move back and didn't decelerate the confrontation. You know, everybody's on edge because everybody's scared. So sometimes just be mindful. Be mindful that there are two Americas now. Be mindful that as we emerge from this first wave of COVID-19, maybe it'll die out. Maybe we've built up enough antibodies to be able to deal with it, and it won't be as devastating as it was the first time we met up with it. Because let's remember, the coronavirus is a virus that's always been in existence. It just mutated where it became deadly. So let's be mindful of that. Let's be mindful of the two Americas, the people that are moving forward, the people that want to stay hunkered down. As always, in closing, I remind you, go to my YouTube channel, view my podcast, the ones that you didn't get to see if you came in late. I'm going to edit this one and take some of the silence out of the beginning. So if you catch it on my page before I edit it for YouTube and reload it to the page, I'll take out all of that dead space. You know, you just see me acting a fool, and because my mic was off. Go to my YouTube channel, view my podcasts. Those that are your favorites, you got a little time now. Most of them are about 30 minutes, 25 to 35 minutes long. A couple are a little bit longer. Go ahead and check them out. Look at the titles. Some of the titles may give you some insight on something that may be useful to you, and share it with others. If you want to use it for a watch party, I encourage you to do so. Leave me some feedback. Let me know what you liked about the video, and hit subscribe. As always, I want to thank you guys for your attention. I want to thank you for your continued support. I want to thank you for your love. I am me because you are you. We're in this together, folks. So, in parting, love, peace, Hey, Grease, y'all like my cut? Yeah. I try to close out with on a light note. Um, I love all you guys because you loved me first. You know, we in this together, and somebody bigger than us enable us to be here so that we can share this moment. Take it on. I'll see you next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. Remember, I got something to say, so it must be true. Good night, fam.